You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to today's episode of Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day. My name is Nick Bondy. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Bondy. I'm joined as always by my brilliant co-host Lachlan Irvin. You can follow him on Twitter at Lock in the Crease. Lachlan, a bit of I would say a disappointing effort last night against the Minnesota Wild, all things considered, considering it was the first game in front of a crowd in 600 days or 500 plus days, however many days it's been. The fact that Minnesota was playing their third game in 4 nights, I think overall just my general takeaway from that game was just a disappointing effort. And I emphasize effort because I didn't see the effort there first and foremost.
No, you sure didn't. We announced last week that this was going to be our last show doing Locked On Canucks.
I wanted to go out with a win, Lachlan, and they couldn't even do that.
Yeah, and you thought that they would know about it, that they would obviously knowing that the Canucks listen to this show, that they would have been like, guys, we need to win. We need to win today because Bondy's got his last show today, and we need to get tomorrow, and we need to get done. But nope, they didn't feel like it. The effort was so not there, and part of that was, there were definitely parts where it's like, okay, Minnesota's just clearly a better team altogether. Like, they're clearly more well-rounded. They're clearly faster, which being the key component there, where they were just torching the Canucks defense on shift after shift with their ability to move the puck and their foot speed. And but even still, when the Canucks got their opportunities, they weren't really putting in enough of they weren't reaching far enough to try and get to make something happen. And it took, the first goal was a power play goal. Great, a nice power play goal, but still. And then it took, Bo Horvat going on an awesome individual effort to get any sort of energy going from the rest of his teammates. And that's not what you want. That's not what you should expect out of a team literally playing their first home game in front of fans in almost 2 years. You expect a much better effort. You expect a much more a team coming out and playing just high energy, emotional hockey. And really, you didn't see that. They're very early on in the game, they looked slow. They looked like they were kind of just gliding around the ice. There was it just wasn't there. The effort was not there.
Yeah, so we'll talk about last night's game against the Minnesota Wild to lead off the show. We'll then talk about the pump-up video for the Vancouver Canucks this season that they play before every home game, because it's getting a lot of praise online. I think rightfully so. It looks pretty cool. And we'll end the show with a little bit of talk about me personally, because as Lachlan mentioned, this is my last show today. So let's get right into it. The Canucks lose to the Minnesota Wild last night, 3-2. I tweeted this out right after the game. We mentioned this. I mentioned this specific fact on the podcast yesterday, that the Minnesota Wild were playing their third game in 4 nights after playing in Nashville and getting walloped in that game. So if there was a spot to play a team in your home opener, this was a good spot. 3 games in 4 nights, traveling. I don't know if people know their geography that well, but Nashville to Vancouver is almost halfway across North America. It's a long flight. You're going almost down to the southeast, all the way up to the northwest in Vancouver. So it's quite the travel for an NHL team, even on a chartered flight. So if there was a spot to catch the Minnesota Wild, it would have been this game. But you wouldn't have seen that, or you wouldn't have known that watching the game last night. The Canucks just looked flat. Let's just call a spade a spade. They looked flat. They didn't have the energy. They turned in a completely lousy effort, in my opinion. They played like a wet piece of cardboard, just blah. And it was a disappointing effort for a home opener. It would have been a disappointing effort, I think, in the 15th home game
Yeah,
of
any
the
game.
season, but in any game. But the fact that it was the Minnesota's third game in 4 nights, the fact that it was the first game with a full house or actual no limits on capacity in since March of last year, it really magnified it. I think only players who can come out of that game saying that they had a good game were maybe Bo Horvat for scoring the goal, like you mentioned, in the third period to give the Canucks any sort of hope. Thatcher Demko was his usual self. He made a few big saves to at least keep the game in it. Maybe you can throw in someone like Brock Besser. He had a couple good chances. He had the great chance on the 2-on-1 with a pass from JT Miller that he maybe should have scored on, but still a great save by Cam Talbot. But he obviously whiffed on that one timer on the power play, which is not the Brock Besser we're used to seeing, right? So I think overall, just a lousy effort, and I say effort because it was in the third period. You expected a push from the Vancouver Canucks to try and get back in this game, and besides that goal
Yeah.
from Bo Horvat, there was just nothing there.
Yeah, I'm looking at their time on ice, at the Canucks time on ice right now, and I'm kind of like just trying to get an idea of where things went wrong here. One of the things that I do remember from the first period that I did like was, like you mentioned, Besser and JT Miller, and you throw in Vasily Podkolzin in there. That line looked decent in the early going. Like they really actually there was some pop there. There was something. They looked like they had a little bit of energy going. And then I'm looking at the time on ice. Vasily Podkolzin played only 6 minutes and 22 seconds, meaning he basically got like no shifts in like the second and third period. Like he got which he got clearly far and away the least amount of ice time. And I'm kind of like wondering why he didn't look particularly out of place at any point during that game. So I don't know why the
whole
Travis
Colson thing comes back to Alex Chason. He obviously scored the first goal for the Vancouver Canucks. He's not coming off PP1 for like 2 weeks now because he scored that goal tap in from a great pass from Elias Pettersson. So the battle between him and Podkolzin is going to be interesting because I don't think Podkolzin is in the lineup tonight without those injuries, right?
Probably, maybe not. Like, I think part of it was, I think the Canucks wanted to put Vasily Podkolzin in the home opener kind of thing. Like, I think it was a little bit of wanting your star for 10th overall pick to play in that first game. I think they might have left him in the press box, had it not been that first game. But also, like with Chason was, like you mentioned, Jason, is in competition a little bit for ice time with Podkolzin. He played the second least amount of time last night. He played 8:52. The difference being that 3 minutes and 51 seconds of that, so close to like half of it was on the power play. So he only played really about like 4.5, 5 minutes.
Yeah, and not very noticeable at 5-on-5.
At 5-on-5, no, because he's not really helpful in that. He's not helpful in that role when you have guys like Pettersson, Horvat, and Besser, right? Like you don't really need him at that spot. Also, just looking at some of the Canucks, like some of the situations the Canucks ran into last night. Holy cow! Quinn Hughes played 28 minutes, played 28 and a half minutes.
And I think that was helped with Tucker Poolman going down early in the second and them having to play 5 defensemen for a big chunk of the game, right? And obviously we are recording this Wednesday morning. No update on Tucker Poolman. I think Travis Hamonic is going to have to quickly have a quick conditioning stint in the AHL because they might need him pretty soon on that right side, right?
Yeah, they might bring him pretty quick here. They might bring him into the lineup pretty quick here. I think they're gonna have to try Luke Schenn at least for one game and see how that goes. But yeah, Hughes played 28 minutes. Tyler Myers played 25.
Yeah.
And then
Tyler Myers always plays big minutes when the Canucks are trailing, right? Like he's very clearly used by the coaching staff as a defenseman they want to play a lot when they're trailing because he has the puck skills. Not so much when they're trying to defend the lead, right?
Yep, this is why I've been very adamant that Tyler Myers needs to be moved up. Like Tyler Myers' true fate is to be moved up to the fourth line as a winger. That's where he belongs, I think. But yeah, like even like the Canucks forwards got into 20 plus minutes, which is really, really weird. Like you never see that during a regular NHL like a regular NHL game. You almost never see multiple like forwards getting into like creeping into over plus 20 minutes, right? Like Horvat had 22, Pettersson was in 21, Miller was in 21. And that's a lot of ice time. That's a lot of ice time to it's more than you should probably be giving to your players. Like in the sense of like you can really cook those guys pretty quick if you're shortening your bench that quickly into a game to the point where they're getting that much ice time. And I think that part of is kind of factored into why they looked kind of lackluster in the late going, because they were kind of just running out of gas a little bit.
Yeah, and Elias Pettersson, not another kind of subpar performance from him. Eventually, he's going to figure it out. He's too good of a player, I think, to go this long with a noticeable slump in play. But let's call a spade a spade. It wasn't a good game from Elias Pettersson, but you could also say that, I guess, if you want to defend Elias Pettersson for a lot of Canucks forwards, right? Like not a good game for a lot of them. But one thing I've noticed from Elias Pettersson specifically is on the power play, right? There was a few times in that game, or a few instances where the puck comes from a cross crease pass and he could have one-timed it, could have, had that classic P bomb from the point that we saw in the first two seasons. And he decides to not take the one-timer, kind of stop and try and, pick the corner with a wrist shot. And by the time he's getting ready to shoot, the defender it has slidden over and is blocking the shot. And then he's got to, pass it back to the point or what have you. Like that's one thing that's noticeable with Elias Pettersson. Like something or someone must have gone in his head, because he doesn't seem to want to take those one-timers on the power play nearly as much anymore.
Yeah, he seems very hesitant to take that shot, which is, it's a shame because he's got a great shot. He's got an incredible shot. I don't know why that's, we've talked about it a lot in recent days. I don't know why that's the way that's the directive he's kind of gone for here. It worked slightly to his advantage on the Chiasson power play goal, where he slapped past it kind of into the crease, right? And literally all Chiasson just has to do is put his stick in front of it and let it like deflect in.
He will never score an easier goal in his life.
He will never score an easier goal in his life. And I was laughing about it last night. I was just like, of course, the first Vancouver goal in front of fans in years, it's Alex Chiasson. And it's not like any of the big names. It's literally the guy they brought in just to be the power play, like knock the puck in. And even then, it was like most of us, after seeing it multiple times, were like, get this guy off of power play one. He's completely useless. He doesn't do anything. Especially considering he was getting put that in that spot over, say, like Brock Besser. It was
Lachlan, he scored, so he's going to be on it for at least another week.
Oh God, it's such an overthinking. It's like such overthinking by the coaching staff to like be like, oh, this is the guy. We got to throw him in. We got to throw him into the power play one. We're going to only have him just for that and never play him at even strength. It's such galaxy brain thinking. And yeah, the Pettersson is just can't seem to get the shots. Never seems to find the shot that he wants. Like, because with Pete, to take the shot, he sees the shot that he wants. At least that's what it's been in seasons past. So to see him never finding that opportunity seems to, I don't know whether it's all the unusual number of posts he's hit. I don't know whether it's the a nagging wrist issue or something, or like injury issue. I don't know what. He's just very, very hesitant to take that last shot, and it's costing him quite a bit. I think a lot of players you could kind of throw into similar categories as well. Like I mentioned in the final 30, and this might have been before we started the show, but the thing that drove me the most crazy is the Canucks were down 3-2. Last minute of play, goalie pull. Demko's pulled for the extra attacker. They have the puck. They have it hemmed in the Wild zone. They are not really facing much pressure from the Wild. They have the time to get a shot up, to get a shot off, to try and just shoot a puck quick into the front. There's people there ready to crash the net to get rebounds. They spend the majority of that time passing the puck around, like doing like the way they do on a power
It was
play.
so frustrating to watch.
Passing. It was so frustrating.
And the shots that they chose were wrist shots from Quinn Hughes from the point that just completely missed the net.
And to be fair, Hughes is usually like money, like at least for getting the puck on net from that spot, like usually. But I was the one that drove me the most crazy was literally, and this is like I'm watching like they're passing. It's the like at Petter's the ice, JT Miller. JT Miller has a lane to take the shot. There's no defenseman in front of him where he can, in front of the puck between the puck and the lane. I'm literally yelling like shoot at my TV, which I don't do often. I'm not one of the people who's like in the building going like shoot it like every time. Anytime.
Oh, I'm definitely that guy.
With the net. But there, I was literally yelling at him, shoot, and then he back passes it back to Hughes, like he goes like he does like the behind back pass to Hughes.
Well,
he's been doing that all night.
Sorry, Lachlan. That whole sequence with the man advantage is very similar to what happens on the power play. It's very static, and they like passing it around. Pedersen, Miller, and Hughes up at the point. Like it's very noticeable at this point.
They're waiting for a perfect shot that's never gonna come, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Just shoot it on net, put it low into the pads, force Talbot to kick out a rebound, and Horvat is already parked there to get to whack in the puck. Just go for it. Don't wait for this perfect lane to open up to get this great shot that's going to look perfect on highlights later. You just got to get it on net. You just got to get the shot on goal.
Yeah, and maybe just to wrap this up, one silver linings thing I think that we can take going forward is they had a very poor effort against Buffalo as well, and they managed to bounce back with 2 wins against the Chicago Blackhawks and the Seattle Kraken, right? So, silver linings in that sense that this team, I think, can recognize themselves that was a poor effort and, fix some things and show a bit more effort Thursday night against the Philadelphia Flyers who are in town. But it was just a game where they didn't have the effort, and they turned in a lousy effort, and that's generally what I take from this game.
Yep. I think the best example of that really is the fact that you look at the shots on goal. In the third period, Vancouver had 5. They had 5 shots on goal the entire third period. One of those was Horvat's goal, and then the other 4 were whatever. Like that's unacceptable when you're losing a game. Like you have to come out you cannot be getting run through and getting outshot in the third period in a game where you're trailing.
Absolutely. That's just unacceptable, frankly. We're going to talk about the Canucks pump-up video that they played in the arena, and it's all over their social media channels. So, of course, if you weren't at the game, you can watch on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, whatever your favorite social media platform is. But before we do that, a quick word from our friends at Built Bar. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There is something truly for everyone. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, they're definitely passionate about their faves. If you don't know the Built Bar flavors, well, you're missing out. Got flavors like coconut, cherry barcia, mint brownie. I'm a classic flavors guy. I like the strawberry, the orange, the cookies and cream. And if you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get a mix box. Well, you'll get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. Not only are Built Bar flavors the best tasting, but they're healthy too. They have 70 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, and only 4 to 5 grams of sugar. Go to built.com and use the promo code LOCK15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 50% off at built.com. So, Lachlan, one of the good talking points I think we can take away from this game was nothing that even happened on the ice. It was a pump-up video that the Vancouver Canucks are going to be playing for their home games throughout the season. A lot of people posted it online. It got great reviews. I liked it. I watched it, but personally, I'm not a big Avengers guy. I'm not a big MCU guy. We were talking about this before. I think the last true Marvel movie I watched in theaters was Iron Man 2 back in 2010 when I was in high school. So, and at this point, it's been like 11 years. I'm too afraid to try and catch up to what's going on right now. I'm like the old like Abe Simpson old man yelling at cloud like what the hell's going on? Like it's just like
Disney
I
Plus
feel like
is
it's
$10 a month. They have every movie. You could
it feels
find
like
the
it feels
time.
like the Marvel Cinematic Universe has passed me by at this point. But it was still a cool looking video. It had Elias Pettersson as a Jedi, JT Miller as like a lumberjack. It was the production value was like very, very cool. And I saw I think it was someone who actually works for the Vancouver Canucks posted on Twitter kind of like some behind the scenes shots from the shoot, and it looked really cool. It looked like a proper production. As someone who briefly worked in film, like, okay, I recognize these things. Like this looks like a proper production. And kudos for the Vancouver Canucks for pulling it off, and their production staff for pulling it off. Looks like it was a lot of work and took a lot of time and effort, and it paid off. I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, with a lot of here's the thing, like a lot of the time with hockey teams in particular, whenever they try and do something like a little bit when they try to do something a little bit crazy or out of the box for like hype videos or any sort of promotional thing, usually it comes off as like a little cringy. It usually comes off a little bit like awkward because it's
did you see the Seattle Kraken last night retire the Metropolitans 1917 Stanley Cup?
We don't need to talk about that. That's embarrassing.
Are they gonna retire something every home game? Like the Climate Pledge Arena is gonna have like 42 different things by the end of the game.
If they did that, that would actually be really funny. If they were just like putting up
funny, but just
for the
very
sake of
cringy at
putting
the
up
same
a banner
time
after every game, like they were, but like it was getting to the point where it's like it'd be like, I don't know, best chicken nuggets in the NHL. Like it's just something completely random. Actually, that would be funny. That would be very good if they did that. I would forgive them for the 32 things so fast. But like again, like a lot of like those videos and like those promotional marketing things often come off a little bit cringy. Not necessarily because they are not putting in the effort, but it's because of things like hockey players aren't actors. They're not like doing this like they're not used to doing this kind of thing. That's not what they're paid to do, really. But the Canucks have kind of in the last two or I guess 3 seasons now, the Canucks have done. First, they did a video during the 50th anniversary with like the zombies, a la like kind of like a Game of Thrones-esque kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good too. That was really well done. It was really well liked, and people got into it. This one takes it to a whole new level. I will I shout out to Wyatt Arndt, aka the Stanchion. For on the recent armies putting up on the Athletic putting up kind of like trying to like basically tell you which reference each player is representing in the show. Like if you couldn't tell,
okay, I'm gonna have to read that then because I'm getting you a refresher.
I'll read them out real quick. Like there's not a lot of them. So Brock Besser was Thor. He was basically pulling out the hammer, like the hammer.
That makes sense. The hair.
Yeah, the hair. It's the hair. It's it's very much the Mjolnir stick thing he got going. JT Miller as Wolverine, kinda like a little bit of a Wolverine.
Okay, so not a lumberjack, but he's American. Isn't Wolverine Canadian? Oh, he's
Wolverine
from Canada.
is Canadian. He is Canadian. That is correct. He is he is Canadian. But that's kind of, it's not necessarily like he didn't have the claws or anything, but it was kind of just like that very much the foresty vibe. Yeah, like very much which is what Wolverine.
See, I don't know about that
like,
because JT Miller is American. So if he's
semantics, what I guess. Mr. I don't like Canadian like overly Canadian forced Canadian things. What suddenly that changes here?
Yeah, 100%.
Thatcher Demko was kind of they kind of mixed Tron with a little bit of Iron Man. Like there was kind of like a mixture of both.
Is Tron part of the MCU?
No, it is not. Tron is just a sci-fi thing. They kind of mixed a few in. Like they definitely, like for example, like
they took some creative liberties.
Yes, like the next one is Elias Pettersson kind of as like a Jedi, like as a Jedi. Star Wars is not MCU. It's just another sci-fi.
It is Disney
thing.
though, so
it is Disney. Tron is also Disney. That is also there's your connection then. That was really cool. Just seeing him doing the Force with the lightsaber hockey stick. Honestly, rocked so hard. And like how they have him literally on a random like desert planet like Tatooine, like that rocks. That absolutely rocks. Quinn Hughes was Spider-Man, which was like, it was kind of a very subtle Spider-Man where he literally is like pulling out the hockey jersey out of the bag, like very much a la Tom Holland, like running into a back alley to pull Spider-Man's
Yeah.
costume out of his like school bag. Loved that. It's Connor Garland as the Flash. That's DC. But I guess you could kind of, if you wanted, you could also potentially like say he's maybe like Quicksilver from X-Men if you wanted the Marvel.
Definitely know
angle
who
there.
he is.
Quicksilver.
I don't.
Quicksilver is is one of the Maximoff twins from Age of Ultron. Of course, played Pietro. Also played by Evan Peters in the X-Men movies.
Okay, yeah, definitely heard of all those guys.
Yes, I am definitely. These are references that you clearly get. Nils Höglander, I think, was, I guess, like Wyatt guesses was kind of like the Human Torch because he was kind of like throwing hockey pucks, like hockey pucks on fire, like kind of, but like moving them around, like I guess like kind of like a Human Torch-esque deal.
Yeah, Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, exactly. There you go. OEL just kind of did like the Superman pulling the shirt out, like chest thing, like like Clark Kent. That was pretty clear. And then Bo Horvat as Batman was interesting. They went.
I was gonna ask if Batman's in there since he's not Marvel. I know that.
Bo was definitely. I thought Bo was maybe gonna be like based on like just how I was kind of like, wait, is he Nick Fury? Is he playing Samuel L. Jackson's character here? Because that rocks. Like they just have him with an eye patch, like over. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I would be so into that. I don't mind the Batman-esque thing, but like what Wyatt talks about here is like literally one of the biggest brands for him over the years has been that he's like he's basically Captain America, like he's Captain Canada. For the Canucks. So why would they go with Batman for him? They should have him with the shield. They should have him with the full, like that kind of a getup, which would have rocked.
Yeah.
And then I like the bonus. His bonus says guys who work out at the gym, which are Jason Dickinson and also Tyler Mott was in there. Tyler Mott was in this video. Tyler Mott, who was at the game as well. Brandon Sutter was also at the game. I should also point out, like, just like completely unrelated. We haven't heard much from like what the deal was with Brandon Sutter and like what he's dealing with. Like we know basically what it is, but like we hadn't seen or heard from him. So to see him at the game, I was legitimately like, oh, it's really, really good that he's here. Like I wasn't sure if he was even in the province. So to see him at the game last night and actually attending was very good. It was very nice.
No, that was a cool moment.
But yeah, so if you haven't seen the video, go check it out. It's really, really good. It is more good than it has any right to be. When they did the thing where basically like straight up Thatcher Demko's mask, like goalie mask, attaches to his face in the same way that like Iron Man's helmet does, I was losing my mind. I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
This is right up your alley. Hockey and
so Marvel. I am the guy who loves Marvel movies. If you've seen my other show, The Crease Cast, our Player of the Game Award is the Infinity Gauntlet. We hand that out every show. Also, I don't know this one. Here's a reference you might remember, Nick. It's if you remember back in 2011. Back in 2011, the NHL did this thing called the Guardian Project.
Yes, I remember that. It was terrible.
It was
very cringe.
They did one thing at the All-Star game with it and then nothing else. I think they made a book, and I know that because I own that book. I have that the one comic they ever made with all like 30 of the Guardians in it. Including the Canuck, that's basically like a Batman character. It's really cool to see now years later, like now that like the MCU is fully come through and is fully like ingrained in like pop culture now. Like it was relatively new, I think, at that time. Like I think the first Iron Man movie only came out in like 2008. And that was the start of the MCU. So it was only like 4 years old at that point. It was still very, very new. The first Avengers hadn't even come out yet. So the NHL really, you could tell they didn't know what they were doing with it. Whereas if you did it now, if you did something like that now, which the Canucks kind of just did, it would rock. And it absolutely rocked. Go watch that video, please. It's so good. I hope they make an actual comic book now. Like, I hope they literally get a local artist and like some local writers to sit down and write a comic. If they're looking for someone, I'll do it. I will write that comic for you. I can't draw.
Can you draw?
I can't draw. And I cannot draw for my life, but I can absolutely write superhero comics if called upon. Canucks hire me to do that.
Yeah, if anyone of the
Like,
Vancouver Canucks is listening, okay, you just gave up all your leverage in any negotiation.
Yeah, you're
the
right.
Canucks are listening to this.
You're right. Don't give my talents away for free. Pay me, I'll do it. Pay me, I'll absolutely write you a whole Canucks comic arc.
Yeah, you'll find a way to do it. I know you're very passionate about that sort of stuff. And you know what? If you go to a home game this season, you'll be able to watch the video in Rogers Arena. I know you're going to a game soon. I'm going to a game soon. I'm looking forward to watching it on the the Jumbotron in Rogers Arena. Should be a cool experience if I can remember to get to my seat in time to watch it, because I'm usually out buying beer at that
you're
point.
One of those guys, huh?
I'm one of those guys.
I'm one of those guys who I am the show up at doors open 5 p.m. guy.
Oh, you're that guy.
And that's partially actually, and that's a little bit more due to the fact that now that since I've started doing media stuff, I'm somebody that needs a little time to get like set up with my computer and everything. I need to kind of just get into my like space and start working on. When I go to media, when I do media, not.
Oh, I thought you brought your laptop like as a paying customer. That's weird.
If they didn't have the stupid bag rule now, there were places to actually sit at a table, I might honestly. But like generally, but no, I don't show up as a regular. Like when I have just a regular ticket, I don't show up with my laptop. But when I do press stuff and I'm actually there on like media when
you're being a big J journalist.
I am usually the first one in the press box. Like I'm usually the first one there, not because I am, which is unusual for me in general, because I'm usually late to things. But I am very much I need to get set up. I need to start working on something. Use the first hour to work on something ahead of time to prep stuff. I need that kind of extra hour. So now I've gotten into that habit of whenever I'm going to a game, I'm always like there when doors open, because I always just need to be there nice and early, get my seat, get settled in kind of thing.
Yeah, you know what? Do any other media members like show up and be like, "What the hell is this guy's problem? He's here at like 5 o'clock."
Now, to be fair, I have never done that. Like obviously I've never done the only time I've done a Canucks game, I was there with Clarissa and Arash, so we were all traveling as a group, so we all showed up together. And we all showed up like closer to around like 6 or something, or like the hour, like right like before like warm up start basically. And that was also just due to like COVID protocols. You couldn't stay in the building or anything. You couldn't be there for an extended period of time because they need to do like the whole like wipe down, like spray down and everything last year. But like at the other games that I've done, usually only like 1 or 2 media people show up. So it's not unusual that I'm the first one there, because they're like, yeah, that would make sense. You're one of like maybe 2 who's going to be here. So someone's got to show up first. Right. So they don't know. So like, who knows? Right.
Yeah. So just to get back on track, everyone go watch that video that the Vancouver Canucks posted. Again, it's on all their social media channels. Go give it a watch. It's definitely worth your time. And it's about 4 minutes. So it's not going to take too much of your time. Anyways, we're going to end the show in just a minute with our last segment. But first, a word from our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball, football, and hockey action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive our 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball postseason, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, so we mentioned it off the top of the show. We mentioned it last week when I made the official announcement. This is going to be my last show for Locked On Canucks. It's tough because I started this because I had a passion for talking about the Canucks. I like podcasting, but I guess I can say what my new job is. I'm going to be a publishing editor at Covers, which is like a sports gambling news, not news, but just a sports gambling publication. They have a few websites. I'm going to be a publishing editor there, so I'm not going to be able to do this podcast because of it. And you know what? There's a saying, Lachlan, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. I'm happy this happened. I'm very happy this happened. I'm happy I got to do this for just over a month. I think I started doing this podcast with you when, like, late September, kind of like
Yeah, like,
kind of middle of the
yeah,
preseason, and then we started to do it. And then we did for just over a month, so not that long of a run for a podcast. But
yeah.
you know what?
I
Like,
mean,
I'm still
if you
glad I
look
got
at
this
the
opportunity.
episodes, if you look at the episode number, like that's pretty that would imply that we've been together on the show a lot longer than most podcasts, right? Like most
Yeah,
podcasts, when you think about it. I mean, this is obviously a bit of a different case because it's not like we're just two buddies who met up and we're like, hey, let's do a show. Like
yeah.
this was a job for this has
This
been a
was this
job.
was a arranged marriage of podcasting at
Yeah,
at the first
exactly.
part.
Exactly. And lots of shows don't make it very long as a group because either they realize like, it's a big time commitment. It's a lot of like, sometimes this is like, oh, our inside jokes don't mesh well
Yeah.
on with other people. They don't get them. Weird. But yeah, like, so a lot of shows generally, like, they always say like the best like shows often take like a good podcast that's actually going to last a good amount of time usually takes about 11 shows. It usually takes like 11 specifically because you've been doing it for a few months and you've gotten into a regular rhythm of doing it to a point where you hit that 11 episode mark is kind of a good marker.
Who told you
um
that?
I've heard it from a couple people. Like I've heard it from a few because the idea is that, usually you do a podcast once a week. So once you
Yeah.
hit it's
Yeah, makes
easy to
sense.
do it like the first few times. Once you hit 11, you've done it for over 3 months generally by that point, or like around 3 months. You're kind of like into that, and you're kind of into that rhythm of doing it to the point where it's routine, it's part of your situation, and you've done it enough that the show is kind of good, and or at least or like the show is like how to do it, how to do it to the best
Okay.
of your ability, at least, right? So yeah, but we've been over this for about 30 episodes, I think, by this point,
Yeah,
as a group,
easily
or like
over
close
30
to it.
episodes because we've been doing it for over a month.
Yeah, yeah, at least around that point. And yeah, that's a lot of shows. It's a lot of like, obviously, yeah, you and I had maybe one conversation before this, and that was when I came on your old show, Power
Yeah,
of the Towel.
I never got the call back, but that's okay.
You never
I'm
got
over it.
we didn't, we have like, you know what? And you and literally, God, too many people on my other podcast. We have had one guest in the last year. And it wasn't even a Canucks person. It was my friend Brian from Nashville talking about the Predators. We have not this year. We're committing more to doing guests actually
Yeah,
pretty soon here.
now I'm not like doing any Canuck stuff. So like, what's the point
Well,
of having me on?
that actually was a couple things. I feel like we should actually kind of do your exit interview in a way here.
Oh, okay. I
So
like
in
this.
a sense of like, in maybe not so much in terms of like this show, but in terms of like going forward. So, you used to write for Next Misconduct.
Yeah.
You don't do that anymore. Now you're gonna be writing full time, doing like sports gambling, that kind of
Well,
thing.
I'm going to be editing mostly other people's work. I may write occasionally, but the job
Oh,
is
you will
mostly
be
right.
surprised how much writing you'll do as an editor, as if I know anything about that.
Okay, well, yeah, no, I might have to write, no doubt about it. I might have to, I'll write to edit other people's work, but you know what?
Mhm.
It should be interesting. I'm not going anywhere on Twitter. You can still see my 100% correct Canucks takes on my Twitter page at Nick Bondi. I haven't got
Mhm.
hired by an NHL team, so I'm not going dark on social media or anything like that. So I'm
Um,
still gonna watch the team. I'm still gonna be, tweeting my thoughts on the team. God knows, I don't have that many followers, but I have enough people following me that I think my opinion matters at least in a small way. So I'm gonna still be talking about the team and everything. I'm just not gonna be able to do a podcast for the time
Uh,
being.
at least not this one. At least not,
Yeah.
this one, which, because, there's it's at least not this one in particular. Which kind of leads me into my other question. Do you see yourself doing Canucks stuff for yourself just for fun, like kind of just on the side, or do you plan on kind of just being like using this as an opportunity to kind of move off from that from that kind of side of sport of coverage and move into this new area?
To be honest, I have no idea. Like, I'm going to start this job and see what it's like, and then make a decision from there. My just right now, I feel like I'm retiring from the podcast game, but this is like my Michael Jordan going to baseball retirement. It's like my Michael Jordan going to baseball retirement.
Full on retired from podcasting. Wow.
I will be back. I will be back in some capacity at some point. I can't say for sure how or when or how. Because I don't know. I haven't started this job yet. I'm starting tomorrow. That's why my last day is today. I'm starting tomorrow.
Yeah, that's why it's Wednesday. That's why it's today and not like Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of like in terms of just like out of this experience, because this is a different experience, and probably this is really such a different experience from any like show or like job you've probably had before this, in terms of like coming in, having doing a show every single 5 days a week for half an hour. What have you taken out of this, be it good experiences, bad experiences? Like, what kind of stuff, what kind of lessons in terms of career stuff have you taken out of this?
I feel like I'm in a job interview right now, man. Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of an exit interview. For me, for example, one of the things I've taken out of it is
sorry, go ahead.
As radio people, I've learned that radio, anyone who does a Monday to Friday 3 hours radio show, they're doing the Lord's work. Sometimes I feel like you and I we're struggling to find something to talk about sometimes for 30 full minutes. And those guys have to do it for 3 hours. Now, in fairness, it's their full-time job. Their full-time job.
They've been doing it for years. They went to school for it.
They're not. Yeah, you and I obviously we have different hustles as well. I write more. I write a lot. I do I do videos. Sometimes I have another podcast. So sometimes it's harder to find that 30 minutes of what is perfect to talk about right here. But 3 hours of that. 3 hours of this is a lot. So I found a greater appreciation for radio people. I don't know about you, but that's my take.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's also, they sound so much better. They don't have any crutches like I do when I talk. I listen back and I'm like, okay, yeah. And you listen back to a Sportsnet 650 podcast that used to be on air. They sound totally different. But you know what? What was fun about this and what I learned from this is doing a podcast with someone else. My original podcast for Next Misconduct was just me, and I would bring guests on every week because I just wanted someone to talk to every week. Right. And I thought, and I wanted someone to talk about the Canucks with, and I got that with you every day. Then you have to look for guests, which can be kind of a grind sometimes, and trying to coordinate all that stuff. As you know, it can be kind of a grind, but it was fun just talking to you about Canucks. And we did this just over a month. I can already consider you a friend. I hope that's the same for you. Likewise.
Yeah, absolutely. We have gotten to know each other pretty darn well over, again, because we basically, you and I talk,
even though we've never met face to face. We've never met face to face.
I talk to you more than I talk to most of my friends, because literally I'm talking to you every single day. When you're in this business, sometimes it's it's hard. You're always working. You're always kind of doing stuff. It's kind of hard to find that opportunity to talk to other people and to have those conversations. So it's the routine is very nice. And being able to actually have somebody who you chat with every single day about sports, and about the sports you like, whether or not even you agree on everything. It's very nice. It's nice to have that conversation every single day, and to do it on a it's been pretty real. It's been fun. I definitely consider you a friend as well. It's quite interesting. It's been quite a wild ride. It's been over the last month or so doing this. And I didn't even factor in the fact that you were like me in the sense of we both started out our podcasting careers with no co-host or anything. We were starting it out because the Creasecast was very much a show that was just me. That was just me for about the first 50 or so shows. And honestly, it got really hard to do. Later on, it got really hard to do shows regularly because I hated not having to kind of play both sides of a conversation kind of thing, right? And kind of having to basically be both people and being well, let's not be too crazy here. No, we got to be insane about this. Having to do both of those, right? And so once I brought like my buddy Cody Sievertson in to do the show last season, like the show got so much better. And I think that was also part of the thing that I noticed, that was why it was so important, why I was so exciting to bring you in for this show, was because I was noticing a lot of the same things where I was like, I think the show could be better because if I'm not having to do both sides, if I'm not having to do the whole conversation for 30 minutes. And yeah, the show got so much better. It improved immensely. Again, very much the case of you are a much better host than I am, which is why I don't host shows, but I'm gonna have to do that a lot more again at least for the next little while. Not just here, but also on my other show. So, yeah, it sucks to see you go, but yeah, like you said, it's about, it's about smile because don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened very much. So
I appreciate the kind words, Lachlan, and because this is the final show, I can finally say this on air. You were a bit too much of a stats nerd for me. That was like that was it.
Too much, like, which is hilarious considering my best math grade was a C+ in business math, which for any of you who know that is the class that you take if you're not good enough for geometry or whatever or trigonomics or whatever it is, or trig. I did not take trig. God, I am so bad with stat. It's really funny because yeah, I don't consider myself a stats guy at all. I consider myself like a good healthy mix of both as much as I can, just because of, I'm not great with math. Other people do that for me. I very much am break out a calculator every time I do even like a simple math problem. That's pretty funny to hear.
That was my impression going in. In all fairness, it's kind of diminished a bit, like you said. You're not too much of a stats nerd. You're probably still more of a stats nerd than me, to be honest. But
that would make sense. Yeah, because
it's a scale. It's a scale.
It's very much a scale on the say, I don't know, like if Harmon Dial is at the front end, and Pierre Maguire at the very end, I am probably I'm closer to the Harmon side than I am the Pierre side, but not
you're left leaning. You're stats leaning.
I'm still around that middle zone, probably. Like I'm still closer to the higher end of that middle zone.
Yeah, you're stats leaning. I think that's what we call it, stats leaning.
Stats leaning. There you go.
And just to quickly put a bow on this, it was a lot of fun to do this podcast with you, Lachlan. Just over a month. It wasn't, like we said, it wasn't too long time frame, but episodes wise, it was a pretty good run with both of us. I probably will be back with a Canucks podcast at some point in my life. Again, I'm starting a new job. I can't say when. I literally can't say when. I got to figure all this stuff out. But you know what? I think when I do another Canucks podcast, I want it with someone like you, like a co-host. I think that's kind of where I'm at with the podcasting is. I would probably want to do it with someone. I don't know if I'd want to do a solo podcast again, but just one last thing. Thank you to everyone who's listened to this podcast while I was on it, while me and Lachlan were doing it. We appreciate the support. We appreciate your listens. We appreciate the engagement. And, again, I'm not going anywhere on Twitter. You can still follow us on Twitter and chat with us about hockey that way. Not going anywhere in that respect, but just can't do the podcast anymore, which is pretty unfortunate. But, like we said, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And sorry.
And it's not for a bad reason either. Like you're going on to like a full-time job, which in this industry is sometimes very hard to find. So the fact that you're going off to do this thing, like it's not a case of we didn't want to do you didn't want to do it anymore.
No,
it's not a case of like we couldn't work together. We were too difficult. Yeah. It was very much a case of you literally got a great opportunity that
and I wanted to do both.
I wanted to do both, fine.
But just doesn't work out like that in life.
It's not always that way. Yep. It'll lead to better things. Trust me. It all gets better. As you go, you get farther and farther. Eventually it's it'll just get better. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. But that has it for today's episode of Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day. Make sure your second listen of the day is Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Host Scott Cullen leads on his decades of fantasy hockey and insight and experience every day to help you be the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available on all platforms. Once again, this is Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Nick Bond. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Bond. You can follow Lachlan Irvin at Lock in the Crease. Lachlan, where can people find your writing?
You can find me at canucksarmy.com. I write there from time to time. And I also do every Monday and Thursday. Although it's going to be a little different, I think, this week. The second show, we're moving to Friday this week. And so I will still be here for the time being. So you're tuning in. It will be me. Hopefully, I'll try and wrangle some co-hosts to come in and fill the Bondy void for a bit. I will. You will still be getting your regular Monday to Friday Locked On Canucks with me. Back to the original show with just me on it for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna keep on listening. Don't worry. But that has it for today's episode of Locked On Canucks. Thank you for listening.